What up?
What's up?
How are you doing?
I'm oh, you know.
No, I don't. That's why I asked.
I'm not. No, that's okay. It's good. I'm good. Everything's great.
Good. Stockholm yourself into believing it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, every time I open my phone, it's like, "Oh, 165 missiles." Yeah, at least it wasn't 300,
Oh
like
yeah. I saw that and then moved on with my life because there was nothing I could do right now. I just went,
yeah,
oh yeah. World War III. I don't know. Um,
cool.
hey
I've
man,
always wanted to live through a world war.
to quote the grandpa that's nice enough to be leaving office and not trying to be in charge anymore. It's above my pay grade.
Right. Right.
Like,
Hey,
okay, yeah,
we
this
tried.
is room temp take, hot lukewarm take with
Lukewarm
me.
take with
Yeah,
Hey, that's
it's
a dude. That's a. I mean, I'm sure you've thought of that already, but that's a good
yes.
podcast name. Oh,
Where I just give real room temp takes on things.
I
I don't know.
dig
I
it.
just think this is everyone who's like, angry at Biden and saying Trump would do a better job. It's like, dog, this is just what America does. Like what Israel is doing is just literally what we did in America when we first got here. They're just doing colonialism. We just have better cameras now.
Yeah, and social
Yeah.
media, so
So,
everybody can share.
yep.
No better way to start a metal and comedy podcast than
Yeah.
politics.
So funny. It's so isn't it? Isn't genocide kind of hilarious if you think
Dude,
about it?
I mean, I know all the dudes in Hollywood here are sitting down trying to figure out how to make jokes out of this right now. So,
I mean, I don't think they are because there's very active lobbies that don't like the jokes. So I am gonna shut up, but also I'm not in the industry, so it's whatever.
yes. Neither am I. Neither am I. Let's do a proper intro because I
Cool.
feel like that's something, right? It's funny how we tell ourselves, like, I don't have a label or a company telling me how this show should run, but in my brain, I'm like, I got to do the intro, right?
I mean, there's still structures that make sense.
Yeah. And I'm a big wrestling guy. So for me, intros are always like
Oh yeah.
an important part of the production. All right. I'm going to keep all this in. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. Today, I am being joined by fellow metalhead and comedian, Mr. Luke. And here I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah.
Severeid.
Second one.
Severeid.
Yeah.
Nice. What's up, dude? How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. Good. Luckily, nothing in the news. Everything's fine. The world is
Nothing.
perfect. Nothing's
Everything's
happening.
great. Comedians are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Actually, that's actually real. Fuck.
No,
Um,
someone, not
some of
me.
them, not
Some of
us.
them
No.
are. No, no. Mm-mm.
But I will give you praise and give you flowers. You're blowing up, dude. Your social media numbers are up. Everything looks great. You're everywhere. I mean, that's how I've seen your clips, but I never imagined like it was gonna get to this point where like you're kind of going viral. You're in everybody. People are sending me your clips. It's wild.
Yeah. Turns out if you write jokes about a thing people like, they are narcissists and share it with each other. Look, it's
Yeah.
me. He's talking about me. Here's me.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, all right.
I mean, that was literally my when I shared one of your stories. Like, oh shit, it's a multiverse me. Cool, I'm
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, I mean, we have it's about goddamn time this redundant look helps me in some capacity instead of just me seeing versions of me everywhere I go.
Is the bald not a choice?
It's a bold move if it is. This is if you're not balding and you have a shaved head, that's a political statement. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
mean,
know a
not
few.
always.
I've yelled at some dudes that have been that are not skinheads, but shave their heads because of whatever. Pro wrestlers specifically that then grew their full fucking head of hair out, and I'm like, excuse me, you can't just culturally appropriate my fucking problem here.
Yeah, man, you can just dabble with my bad genetics.
It's
Like,
terrible. When did it start for you? The bald.
17.
No shit.
Yes, yes,
Fuck.
yes, shit, yes,
Fuck.
shit. I have two jokes tied to. I have so many jokes tied to it, but it's kind of funny in the act. I can't really do both of them because it's sort of the same punch, just from different angles. But the first one is me just going like I stopped believing in God and immediately afterwards started losing my hair.
Nice,
And then
nice.
also I started playing bass and then basically immediately afterwards started losing my hair. So it's just like which one is the catalyst? Either God's
Uh,
mad at me or I'm like I must fulfill my role in the background. Bah, 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 bah.
Fuck, dude. Yeah, for me it was in the I don't remember the exact age, but it was in my 20s, and I remember I was in a band, so I was singing, and I had a giant like 1 foot mohawk,
Hell yeah.
and that was Eddie Mohawk, and then I shaved it for a job interview, and that was punk rock telling me I was a poser. Like, oh, you're trying to get a corporate job? Fuck your mohawk, and it never came back. That's why I blamed it on that.
Yeah. Well, you sold out and then your
Fuck,
hair was too punk for you, dude. It was like, all right, well, I ain't
I'm
gonna
out,
support
bro.
this dude.
Fuck this
We're
shit.
done.
Dude, okay. So bald, bearded. Are you also blind? That's the other one. Do you need glasses?
Oh yeah, I'm wearing contacts right now. Are we just gonna go through all of my deficiencies?
It's
Is that
both
what
of
this
us.
podcast
It's both of us.
doesn't mean the public needs to know? What else is wrong with him?
Well, how are your knees? No, I'm kidding.
The right one makes way too much noise. I
Yeah, dude.
started using kettlebells way more a couple years ago, and then ever since I did that, it was just like, all right, we're clicking and clacking. I'm like, I can't sneak up on anyone to murder them anymore.
Oh, damn it.
Such a
That's a
bummer.
it's a bummer. No,
I have a
but
lot of plans.
how has it been for you? Are you getting more offers now that shit's kind of like popping
Yeah,
off for you? Like
yeah,
what's coming
it's
in?
nothing I can really talk about right now.
Uh oh.
Well, yeah, because nothing is anything until it's something, and even then, it
Right,
might
right,
not
right.
be anything. But I've definitely gotten people emailing me, be like, "Hey, this would be really cool," and I'm like, "Cool," and then they just don't hit me back up for. So it is because the internet's started to like me because I started to talk about metal music more often. I've been posting my jokes on social media for years before, but you have to tap into a niche to then try to trick other niches into liking you. And it's also sort of just figuring out how to navigate these platforms. But for about the last year and a half now, I've been kind of riding a wave, and I have to keep more and more reels, more and more jokes. So more people do take notice, but I mean, the industry, like the conventional comedy industry, is still not really. I'm unrepresented, don't have a manager, don't have an agent. It's just it's DIY, and a lot of the road gigs that I've been doing, it's stuff that I set up myself.
Nice.
So like, yeah, and more people are coming out, but it's still I'm pushing the boulder.
That's good, Sisyphus.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
Uh,
every goddamn day.
it's every day. No, it's a good. You should keep it that way. I know that there's a lot of appeal in having, a team and people backing you and throwing money at you. That's always appealing. But man, if you're able to do it on your own, there's, I mean, outside of just extra work. But I'm assuming that you are similar as well in that you want the work. You want to stay busy.
Yeah, I would like to have more bandwidth to focus on the jokes because that is
Mm,
what the foundation is, but it's also the fifth priority, maybe.
yeah. Yeah.
And because if the jokes are good, then the videos are good, then the reels are good, then the follower count is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's all these other things that I still am not like as proficient at as as I would like that take up a lot of my time.
Well, shit. I mean, if you're building it and it's working, you got to get it
Yes.
to a point that then when the official deal happens, you have a little more power too. Because that's the thing. Like
Yes.
when we're up and coming, it's like deals seem very nice until you realize you're getting screwed, and then
Yeah.
at the end, you want to make sure that you have leverage, and you have that. You're starting to build that. Uh, but I'm happy for you, dude. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Like, I remember when I think it was Tripoli. When I first met Sam Tripoli, came up to me. He's like, he saw I was wearing one of the signals. Like, hey, I'm in a band, and
Yeah.
and he was just like, man, that's cool. We need more metalheads and representing in comedy. And like, I'm not trying to I don't do metal jokes at all. All my jokes are about whether or not I'm gay, and my brother's gay, I'm married, and other things. Being Cuban, I don't ever joke about metal because I still have that stupid metal is my secret thing. Metal is my
Yeah.
nobody wants metal.
Yeah, except for when you go to a show and go, oh, a lot of people do. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean that was the story I told myself for years, and that's why I only recently have had success online sharing jokes about metal music is because I would let that voice dictate what my actual voice would say.
Mm,
And I think that is stupid. That's a waste of
yeah.
time. Stop doing that. Find whatever part of you that is doing that and choke it the fuck out because it is a thing that is integral to you in both your identity and but also in the identity of many other people. Like hold off until I get my career where I want it to be. We don't need like follow this advice later.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to be Luke Light. No, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's look, I don't want it to be it's like you said, it's a stupid dumb like elitist thing that a lot of metalheads have even to this day with music. Like, oh, you listen to Sleep Token, you must be gay. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
ridiculous. I'm starting as I'm getting older, just opening up to music that I never even thought, and then I realize like how dumb I've been for years, closing myself off to other bands because I thought maybe it wasn't cool or my other metalhead dudes were not gonna be into it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot of I mean, I have jokes about it, just kind of going like that, like everyone judges metalheads and then metalheads judge metalheads. It's just so
Yeah, yeah,
much judgment. It's just layers and layers, and it's like we're all listening to adults pretending to be monster men. Like, what are you? Where he's like, I like it when he goes, oh, 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 and I like it when he goes, and I like it when he sounds like a pig, and oh, I like it when he says arf arf. Like, what the fuck? And we're
yeah,
judging
yeah,
each
yeah,
other. That
yeah.
being said, there's some bands that I listen to and I go, this is stupid. This is dumb. I do not
And
like this.
let's name them. Let's go. Let's throw them under a bus and start burning bridges. Now I'm just
Start
kidding.
burning bridges. I mean, that's a fun thing about getting an elevated platform is that I could just say something offhandedly that's an opinion,
Yeah.
and then someone's going to be mad at me.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
like, I might do a show where I interact with that person at some point, and then they're mad, and I'm like, I just don't like your art. I think it's boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and also vocals are just angry poetry.
That's true.
It's
That
like,
is
and I'm
true.
supposed to, like, that's the thing I really take issue with is that we elevate singers like to this level, like these, like, they're like almost half deities to an extent. And they're like, no, they're the laziest one in the band. They do
Yeah.
the least amount of effort and they get the most recognition. They literally wrote lyrics that have a soundtrack so you don't actually pay attention to how lame they are. And like, don't get me wrong, some of them are fantastic. I just, it's, I'm very aware of ego in so many things, and there's just so much ego tied to singers and bands, and like they're the ones who talk the most, so it makes sense. People harmonize. Like, imagine if you went to work, you start talking, and everyone starts like saying what you're saying in time with you. Like, your head's gonna get big.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough
Like,
battle as a former singer with absolutely no ego issues. What are you talking about?
yeah,
No, I've tried all of the mushroom ego death stuff, and like it's always gonna be there. You just need to learn how to put it away and not let it succeed. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, not let it be the main voice,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
only one talking, and that's kind of where I take issue. But that's also me just kind of processing my own stuff because it is interesting. Because I have audiences coming out more intentionally to see me, and I'm getting like applause breaks where it used to just be laughs, and I'm just kind of like, "All right, you guys, we're not here to just be like, he said what I agree with." It's like, no, these are punchlines. It's supposed to get that I got out of you. That's the
yeah.
reaction I want, not
Not
people
the
applauding.
not the elevate like yes, good, good. You said the thing.
This is my ego talking. They're slightly more enthusiastic claps than elevator
Then
claps.
golf clap.
Yeah, they're not like, yes, that is a valid
Yes,
point.
yes, yes, very good. But yeah, it's look, and as your platform gets bigger and as your shows get bigger and you start doing arenas and I empathize, or I try to empathize. Is it sympathy or empathy? I'm stupid. I don't know which word it is, but when I see like a Bert Kreischer who's like playing stadiums and then people are talking shit, I'm like, I get it. I get all of it. I get the entire spectrum of emotions that's going on with what he's dealing with, what the crowd's dealing with the, it's hard to fight like that ego when you're at that level. You have that many people fucking like sucking your dick the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's, you also have to like be a fan of you. It's just try not to take yourself too seriously during that process. That's,
Yeah.
I think, at the core of it is that like I love metal, but it is for the most part an like a genre that takes itself a little bit more seriously than I think it needs to.
Oh yeah.
And that's also why I'm not a musician anymore. I'm a comedian because that's kind of I care more about the like, this is dumb. Like I love it, but it's dumb. Like
Yeah.
here's jokes about it being dumb. Like that is I don't know. That's more of a priority for me than I suspect, musicians, because they're like, it's a lot of image too. You got to be the badass where like when you go, hey, let's start a circle pit, everyone's like, we should, because the main monster man told me to. So let's do circles together.
Yeah. And it's also a very sad feeling when you really try hard to get the crowd to move and they don't.
Dude,
It's so tough. Dude.
I saw an instrumental band in Seattle years ago, and I really liked them until that show where I was like, the bass player, which is usually the one that I, like the most, just because I'm like, hey, buddy, you're doing the thing I was bad at. But he just kept telling the Seattle audiences to start a circle pit, and I'm like, you're wrong genre, my guy, and just corny jokes, and I'm like, I haven't really listened to the band since, just because of that. Because like each time I listen to him, I'd hear the bass playing, and I was like, this guy's a douche. I don't want to hear him.
Yeah, it's tough, dude. The other issue with like having a podcast like this, where I talk to bands like that, or bands that I loved or whatever, is then getting to meet them and realizing like, shit, like that was my favorite guitar player.
Yeah.
Was keyword.
Yeah. I like what them fingers do, not what that mouth do.
God damn it, dude. Oh my god. And you were mentioning like the ego thing, like even guitar players, like you see instrumental bands or people like a Steve Vai. I'll call out Steve Vai. You're literally just jerking off on stage. They're just holding this stick and they're like, oh yeah, oh, it's like it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of ego, a lot of shit that goes into that. I could never deal with it.
It's also what people paid to see.
True. That is true.
Yeah, like,
that's what they want to see.
Like people go to metal shows to see someone they perceive to be elevated and to elevate them. Like they want to be like, oh, that was the best Tuesday ever. And you're like, all right.
The fingers.
Yeah. I mean, I did that too. And I love doing that. And then when I kind of got into comedy, you just like the curtain kind of pulls back and you're just like, oh, these are just dudes and dames that are just doing a thing. This is their work day at night. And like, it is literally, it's show business. And like, I like it, but I also am just kind of like, all right, there's an asterisk next to this. Like, this isn't the coolest thing ever. But like, as an audience member, in the same, much like going to church, like you're all there for a thing and you want to get an experience out of it. So the expectation is elevated. And so they deliver in a way. And you're a byproduct of your environment. And if your environment is a bunch of people screaming woo, and then a line of people wanting to suck your dick, like you're going to be like, I'm pretty good at what I'm doing, I guess.
Yeah. Like going back to Bert, and I hate to do that, but if he doesn't take his shirt off at a show, people will bitch. The fans are going to go home and they're going to be like, oh, he didn't take his shirt off. So he's losing his edge. And then they stop, they start talking shit online, and then their fandom drops. It's hard because I'm sure he wants to not take his shirt off and be taken seriously, but he gets a pop every time he does it, so he's going to keep doing it.
Well, it's greed and ego at that point where you're like, yeah, man, if you just endured some shitty comments for a while, you're real, like the fans that actually like you would stick around. But I'm sure he has so many bills so much like, but I have to make, you have to constantly be making more and more money every single year. Otherwise you're a failure. Shout out capitalism. So like it's a thing where you become beholden to your fan base as well, where you have to appease them. Like at this stage in my career, I'm getting the following, and much of it is tied to metal music, but that's not exclusively what I want to have. Like
Yeah.
I want to be able to dive into as many subject matters that are a part of my identity, but also just in general aspects of existence. And so that I'm not beholden to one group. I'm not beholden to people expecting me to just yell about music.
Right.
Like I'll probably still yell, but I want it to be about other things as well.
What
Cause
what are some of those things? Like what? Tell me like a couple things. Just one thing that you would rather not rather, but just would like it to be part of your palette of comedy.
Well, I mean, it is, I do in some capacity already. I talk about a bunch of other things, but it's just, it doesn't do as well online. But also,
Mm.
I think it's because it's easier for a joke about metal music to be shared because it is identity and my audience is on board with that. But, like ADHD, having, broken brain, depression, I'm an uncle. I have a bunch of jokes about that. I'm a bit of a pothead. I love video games. I'm a bit of a nerdy dude. I'm a left leaning guy. Like all of these things kind of they permeate throughout, but it's like I've had a handful of jokes do well, but nothing to the levels of me yelling about Jesus not being real or something. But yeah, like I'm a pretty vehement atheist. I'm like, I want more jokes about that. But all of these things, it's like a barrier that may or like make someone tap out, and like I have to be okay with that. Like when my metal stuff was popping off, that started February of last year on Instagram and Facebook, and then TikTok as well a little bit later. I was like, oh, I need to put up other jokes, like a joke about me being like, hey, I'm bald, bearded, racists like to talk to me. I'm not a fan, like that, as like kind of all right, if you like this joke, you're going to run into this one. And if you're one of these dudes, hey, man, maybe tap out. Or something about being like trans inclusive, like, because I do know a lot of metalheads lean pretty right. And you're like, okay, that's not me, but I'm going to
Which
give
is
you a
weird to
taste
me. That's very strange.
that I don't.
Yeah.
Which part of that so many
Well, that
metalheads
that
that lean
metalheads are right leaning. Like it really is weird. Like
it?
metal is supposed to be the like the free thing that's not like the liberal type of thing, the weird thing, the thing that's like I don't know. At least that's how I
Well,
saw it growing up.
yeah, and now you're grown up,
Yeah,
and the pendulum swings.
that's weird, man.
It's Yeah, for me, it was like Darkest Hour was like a big band for me when I was like in my teens.
Mm.
And they're very like anti-corporate, anti like capitalism, just kind of like the system is fucked. Like, and that resonate and it still resonates with me. But like you see bands and they're just kind of like, look into the status quo, America, blah blah blah. And you're like, oh, this is art evolving. And but I get why it's easy. America has a lot of red leaning people that are like red leaning men in their early 20s, like, late teens and their 20s because it is appealing. It's guns, it's testosterone. And I get that. It's the frustration. But I also go like, I don't know, intellectually, I disagree with that because I don't think that is the optimal way to continue an existence unless you just want to fucking win the culture war and make everyone be you,
Right,
which
right, right.
is I think every metalhead should be against because you're like, guess what, man? What if I get to pick the playlist for forever? There's going to be some bands you don't like on that playlist.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's just, uh, you know, like you said, the darkest hour. Like there are to me always rock and metal and like Rage Against the Machine is not per se like the type of metal we're into. They're more what would you call that? New metal? What was
Yeah,
Rage?
I think they would be in the new metal technically, but like, yeah, they were like kind of the original one of
Yeah,
the original acts.
and you get like Trump people. Fuck you! I won't do it. It's like you're doing it wrong though. Like I
But
saw
that's
that whole thing.
also
The whole thing with Tom Morello, he was like, "You guys are do you know who we're talking about when you're using the song?" Like, I don't know, it's
well,
weird.
it's also all of these people that we're talking about that like wrote the music for you when you were a teen and like seeing how like shaping your perception of the world. They've been millionaires for decades.
Yeah,
Like that is going to, and they're older now, and so they don't have, they care more about upholding the systems now that they're like benefiting from them. Not saying I don't benefit from the system as well. But I'm just saying like people shift. I used to be a Joe Rogan fan, not a huge fan of his stand up, but I enjoyed his podcast. And then he got rich, and during Trump's presidency, he clearly leaned more right leaning and would. This is my main issue with Rogan, is that he would just say that he's a free thinker and like is open to hear everyone's opinion, and then he more and more only listened to the opinions that agreed with his opinions. And it's also, he's a byproduct of his fan base. They leaned UFC, they leaned more right leaning. He becomes a bajillionaire because Spotify buys him out, and it's like, yeah, man, your priorities shift.
Yeah.
And I think metal music is just going through a phase like that, and that's just art. I don't know who I'm paraphrasing, but it's a quote that I love to bring up when it's about just kind of any art form, is that art is having a conversation with the art that precedes it. It is either agreeing and adding to it, or it's disagreeing and taking it in a different direction. And I think that is kind of what's happening here, is that you're like, yeah, like some metal music has been co-opted, or it just seems cooler. We're also going through a Democratic presidency, so the counterculture is Republican. Like,
right. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it's very easy to be anti the system when that team is in charge, but it's like, say, fuck, I hope it doesn't happen, but say Trump gets elected again and we have 4 more years of him, the left counterculture will spike, because that is just how America, it's just the pendulum swinging back and forth.
I hate it. I wish we could change it. I'm tired of the tribalism, the one side or the other side thing, and it permeates everything, all of pop culture, all of like everything, comedy, music, wrestling. You pick a side, and it's like, can we just fucking enjoy stuff and not be weird about it, not be assholes? And I don't know. It's strange, the whole culture, and I've found myself kind of pulling away from not checking social media all the fucking time, but I have to, because of the show. It's like I have to. It's a double-edged sword. Like I have to make sure the show's up and running and there's people interacting, and then I end up looking at my phone like, God damn it, I saw another thing. It's like, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. I don't know what to do, and except for just keep doing comedy and having conversations like this about it. But it's weird that the counterculture is what I grew up being against. You know what? I don't know. It's strange.
Well, I think what you're saying is something that could have been said 10, 20, 30 years ago. It would just be in reference to a different aspect of culture, like a different art subculture, where they'd be like, well, it used to be this and now it's this. That's not what and you're like, I just think that it's cyclical in the same way that fashion seems to like repeat itself every like 2 decades.
Yeah. Jinkos are back, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah. I was like, I thought those were fucking dumb when I was a kid, and now
I never got into those. Fuck. Parachute pants.
I couldn't afford that much denim.
So, okay, I want to get off political talk because it just pisses me off and it makes me angry. So tell me about the first time you figured out, because you mentioned ADHD. When did you figure that out? Because a lot of times I feel like I have something, I'm undiagnosed, I haven't gotten checked out in that sense. But every time I'm around other people that have certain things, I'm like, oh, fuck, I do all of those things. Do I have that? So how did you discover that, you had something going on? And have you, done doctors and all of that stuff?
It was just a couple of years ago. It was during COVID. All the spare time to really get introspective and sort of analyze my own behaviors and systems, like my habits and the way I process things. Analyzed it a bit more, and finally got off my ass and like made a doctor's appointment and went in there with the intention of being like, I'm pretty sure I have this. And if you look at your own life through the lens of like, hey, maybe you have this thing that leads to X, Y, and Z, it kind of makes things click. Just being like, I've always, that makes me sound like I think I am right now, but like I was a smart kid, but I just was terrible at like finishing work. And I think the core of at least my understanding of like a lot of ADHD is like a lack of dopamine, and the dopamine helps reinforce behavior. And like, if I don't immediately get a little hit, like I don't want to pursue the thing. I have such a hard time like staying focused on something that isn't like actively engaging. But like a video game, I can play a video game for hours because there's so much dopamine and feedback. But like sitting down and writing out a paper, my brain would be faster than my fingers. So I would just be like trying to type out a sentence and I'm thinking a sentence or two ahead, and then you just get clunky on yourself, and then you skip a sentence. So I went there and I filled out a form. It was so easy. It's not a hard thing to get a diagnosis. I've heard women have a harder time getting that diagnosis, but I also just think that they have a harder time getting anything from doctors because their biology has so much more variation than dudes. We're just like, should I get this looked at? You're like, you mean your foot that's falling off? You're like, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I filled out a form and literally, I mean, I answered it honestly, but it was like all fives except for a 3 and a 4 in there. I was like, all right, man, pretty sure.
So is there medication that you can take, or are you doing that?
No, I'm not on medication right now, mostly because I just don't have it. I moved to Pennsylvania a while ago and I have not jumped through all the hoops to get medical benefits that I need to. Mostly because I'm working on 700 other things. And so I'm unmedicated right now, but the times that I have been on medication, I tend to want like a time release dosage that isn't too high because I don't actually want to feel coked up. I just want to be able to finish a thought all the way through. To be able to sit on an email and go, and that's done. Okay. Instead of it being like email, this thing, back to the email. All right. And like I halfway do 7 things before I finish one thing.
Yeah, that's how I'm at. That's where I'm at. I've had pictures that I've posted of literally my keyboard, my laptop, a table with a monitor, my TV on, and my phone in my hand. And it's me doing all of those things at the same time. It's answering an email and like, oh yeah, hold on, I need to finish this quick edit here, and then it's nuts.
Yeah, it's I also think just the in the same way, to circle back to like the divisiveness of the internet and just kind of culture in general, is that we are constantly kind of like, this is a byproduct of the systems that are in place. Like the duopoly makes it easier for, the powers that be to just keep pitting us against each other back and forth. So they kind of, it's one of two options, but they are the ones that are kind of steering the ship for the most part. In the same way that like, I think a lot of people have ADD, ADHD tendencies because of the internet, because our gray matter has not had this kind of input ever. And we're still adapting to it. And the way evolution works, it takes a really long time to actually adapt. So this is us going, there's so much just bombarding our senses. We used to know like a couple dozen people tops, and now we're aware of everyone's opinion on everything at all times. It's easy to get overwhelmed. And then also we have way more tasks than we used to. I used to do manual labor and just be like ripping out windshields, putting in new ones. Like my back doesn't miss that job. But the simplistic nature of going task at hand, do task done, on to next, as opposed to now where I'm like, all right, I'll work on this video. All right, I got a Zoom podcast recording. All right, in an hour and a half, I have a phone call. All right, and I should work on that. I need to work on that. Like all these tiny things that you just bounce off of.
But I mean, that's also the nature of what we've chosen to do with our lives. Like, you've chosen to be a comedian. I'm not going to call you a content creator, but I mean, you create content. It's not, You're not making funny noises while reacting to videos, but you're putting stuff on. Yeah, God, I hate that shit. So that's the worst type of content to me that exists in this world. And it's people like, and my friends send them to me. Like, here's a funny video, but there's 2 dudes underneath and they're making fun of it and laughing, kind of like Mystery Science Theater, but like not as good,
But also the audience likes that. It works.
It gets views.
Because it works. It gets views. Because also in the same way that a stand-up clip works better, in my experience, if you make sure the audience sounds as good as they can sound. We are slightly less hairy apes that need to be told what to do, how to react. So if you are watching a video and then someone's laughing, you're like, that's right, that's what I should do.
That's why Friends was so successful, because they had the laugh track. Yeah. Have you seen those clips of what the fuck? Thanks, Zoom.
I think it just recognized my bald head as a balloon. That is fucking rude.
Did you just get roasted by Zoom? Holy
shit. Happy birthday, balloon head.
Oh my God. Oh, I was going to say, if you'd seen the clips of like Friends with no laugh track, it's terrifying.
Big Bang Theory, same thing.
Oh my God.
Where you're just like, all right, that's just a reference to Lord of the Rings or Spider-Man or Star Trek. There's no punchline. You're just going like, that sounds like something Picard would say. And you're like, okay.
Uh-huh. And?
Where's okay. So just setups. The whole show is setups and laugh tracks. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, dude, nuts. Like Ross, I think, was the guy. Sounds like a psychopath that kills women when you remove the tracks. It's insane. The way that he talks, like there's a whole clip about it, and it's just they put like a little eerie noise in the back too to make it a little extra spicy. But so dude, okay, so you said during the pandemic, you discovered this about yourself, and I mean, was it the vaccine, bro? No,
yeah,
the vaccine gave you ADHD, man.
No. The vaccine gave me autism, which gave me the focus to figure out that I have ADHD.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. Sorry, not to sound woke, but doctors might know something.
So what? No.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. I do my own research. What are you talking about?
Based off of what the YouTube algorithm gives me.
I have a joke about that, about how I know I'm not gay because I did the research. I went in to try and have a threesome and it didn't work out. So now I know for a fact, but how many men know for a fact? They just think they think they're not gay. You gotta suck a little bit of dick to know you don't like it. You gotta at least have one right in front of you, see how you react. Because if it's it could be like, ooh, that's attractive. You don't know. So, huh? Yeah,
you don't.
Yeah, you don't. So tell me, how did you decide that comedy was the thing instead of bass? Because it seems like we follow a similar path. I did the band thing for 10 years, and then I was just like, we split up for other reasons. But then as I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? Do I start another band? Do I go keep doing this? And I didn't really feel the urge to keep the music going. So I pivoted to podcasting and comedy. What was it for you that made you do that switch?
Well, band stuff just didn't work out. It is also kind of a pain in the ass having to navigate so many people's schedules and then their significant other schedules and just all that. It's and I was like in my mid-20s at that time, and we weren't really getting any success or anything like that. It was not a huge band by any means, and I was up in Washington State, and there's not a huge scene up there. But it was me, just like I started playing bass when I was like 15, and it was just like a fun thing that I enjoyed. And then in my mid-20s, I mean, I kind of got into listening to stand-up comedy and a lot of podcasts about stand-up comedy in my early 20s, and hadn't really been playing music for a while, but would hang out, house parties, bars, and I'd always be trying to kind of, throughout my whole life, I'd want to get a laugh as a means of knowing that you're part of the in-group. If you're making people laugh, they like you just by default. Like, they have a hard time not liking you if you just made them like laugh.
Yeah,
truly.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like that reinforced that kind of dopamine loop. And then I just kind of realized like, oh, like comedians, like you have to be an amateur for a really long time before you become a professional. Like I would listen to like Rogan's podcast and they would talk about that. You're like, oh yeah, you start off at a bar where you're nobody. And I'm like, oh, I go to bars. I'm a nobody. Oh, I could do that. And in 2012, it was March 26, 2012. I went to just a dive bar called Bender's in Renton, Washington, and signed up. The week prior, I went there to watch, and like just happened to not have my set ready. All of my friends were already there, like to watch my buddy's girlfriend's cousin go up. And they were like, you should too. You're funny. I'm like, maybe I'll do it. And I went and watched and was like, oh, I could do this. Like, I could be better than some of these people that signed up. And so the next week I, planned out a set, signed up, and oh man, it was that was I didn't like sleep that night. That was the most like validating experience I've ever had in my life. Just the dopamine, just like all the good chemicals, and I was good at it. I mean, like I can watch a tape now and be like, all right, were you good? But like at the time, like it just was so like I play bass on occasion, but I was never a great bass player. I never had moments where I was like, yo, dude, you got something here. But
Right.
like when I got off stage and after getting laps in front of a group of strangers, I was like, this is not a waste of time. And like intellectually now I know that if I got paid by the hour of how much if you take all the money I've made doing stand-up comedy and like divided it by how many hours I've spent like driving to and from, waiting, doing these unpaid open mics and all these other things, I'm still making terrible wages and will for a while until my career really takes off. But like it was the most validating thing I've ever done. So I mean that's how it was for me. And I assume that's a version of that is how a lot of comics do. Like you do it once and it just your brain goes, yep, more of that. It's literally the same as trying cocaine for the first time.
Yeah, it's very similar. I'm blessed actually with a weird like I'm able to try drugs and not really get hooked on. Like I did coke for a while, but I was able to just stop it. It wasn't. I didn't go through withdrawals and rehab and all like some people do because they just can't get rid of it. My brain is able to clip it. Like if I decide to stop drinking, I've taken months off, no drinking, no problem, no shakes, no like, you know. That's why I'm blessed in that sense. I know a lot of people struggle with that shit, but I know some comedians that they go up and they don't get a laugh and they bomb and they just stop doing it or take a very extended break until they officially decide to come back and then try and get a pop. So you got laughs right out the gate in the first show.
Yeah, I mean, I did fine for a while. The first bomb I had on a Wednesday, and it probably wasn't even that bad. But I like the previous Monday, and I was a month into doing open mics. I had like a good set where I was like, oh, I smashed. Like people who say that you're like I killed, you're like, well,
Yeah.
all right, man. But I'm saying like for the level I was at and the skill level I was at, I had a very good set.
Mm.
And then I tried to repeat the exact same set the 2 days later at a different open mic and just ate my own butt because for a variety of reasons. You go out there, you don't know what you don't know. And on that first show I didn't know the wave I was riding. I didn't understand that the room is a specific thing, that like I'm at a dive bar in Renton, Washington, as opposed to a Wednesday night 7:30 open mic at comedy club in Tacoma, Washington. So it's like it's a different energy and you need to calibrate to those things. So like, yeah, I had bombs, but they weren't, I would probably go back and watch them and the, the perception of what a bad set is much different now than it was then. But it's like,
Mm.
I was getting enough and I was aware enough to know when things weren't good. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like
So was it
also
like
you
more
said,
of a bad performance? Like you were confident in your material, but you were just having an off moment. So it wasn't that destructive to your mental health where like some of these comedians they do a joke, they bomb, and then it's like, oh no, I'm terrible, and they just go in there. It feels more like you were able to recognize that, hey, this killed last week, so the material's good. It's just this is not the room or the moment.
well, it's not even the material is good. It was, oh, that just didn't work on this room.
Mm,
Like that, I'm ultimately the person on stage is responsible for everything happening in the room,
yeah.
being successful or not. I mean, with maybe not everything, because there's so many other. If someone's hammered and puking on the floor, like you can't really combat that by being like, no, listen to me talk about my wiener real quick. Like,
Waiter drops a plate of wings on someone. Yeah, yeah, that kind of shit.
yeah. But I saw it, and maybe this is rose tinted glasses, but like if I'm remembering how I felt about it, it was me going like, I don't know what just happened, but I did something. I had the wrong energy. I did this wrong, And it wasn't like these jokes are terrible, but it's just like, yeah, these aren't done. These jokes aren't done. I'm not done. I'm just getting started. Wow, that didn't feel good. I would like to not have that happen again. How do I facilitate that?
And just keep
And
working.
yeah, just keep working. It's just get back on that fucking horse.
Yeah, that's a good mentality though, man. Because especially out here in LA, many comedians here are very, very broken and fragile, and one bomb is enough. You know what I mean? One bomb is enough to cancel your career and or your life. Unfortunately, here in Los Angeles, but yeah, I'm great. I felt, and maybe you was similar. Do you feel that your experience in a band performing on stage in front of people gave you a little bit of an advantage when you started stand up? Because a lot of these comedians don't have that. They just go straight to stand up and they're getting shell shocked from, just being on stage in front of people.
I mean, I didn't even play that many live shows in the band. We did
Okay.
like less than half a dozen. So like within the first week and a half of me doing open mics, I'd been on stage more than I had ever as a bass player.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it so that was kind of like, it was also kind of funny at the time. I was like, I've been on stage more as just myself than I've ever been in as a musician. All right, so we're definitely more a comedian than we are a musician, because like the shows we were playing is basically were versions of open mic shows where like a booker's like, you need to sell these tickets, and then they just still fuck you over.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I do think having been on stage a little bit, especially with the ability to, I'm not the vocalist, so I can kind of be in the background if I want. And the shows we did play, it was very nerve wracking, but I always like, I would move around in weird ways just because it's fun to be like, nah, and then I'd get a laugh. I would be on stage, we're playing metal music, and I'm getting a laugh because I'm walking around in a weird way, and I'm like, ah, like so clearly, laughter as a response has kind of been the priority the whole time.
Nice, nice. Well, that's
Yeah,
good, man. That's good. I would urge you to stay away from LA open mics.
I've been down there
It's
and been like,
so
oh yeah,
bad.
so it's just everyone's waiting for their turn to bomb. Cool, I'm
Yep.
good.
No laughs. Everybody's waiting. Then they, up recently, no laughing matter, but recently there was an assault apparently on a female comedian, some male comedian outside of the fourth wall here, fucking smashed her head with something because they had a weird beef. And it's like, what is, why? Why is it like we're supposed to be having fun and making people laugh? Like it's getting weird in LA, and I hate that because I'm so sick of hearing like a Joe Rogan or a Tony Hinchcliffe making fun of the LA comedy scene. But like I'm starting to like it's starting to be real. It's unfortunate.
I mean, I'm not a member of the LA comedy community, so I don't want to poo-poo it, but it is like a hub of industry, and you have to be a certain type of person to want to grind it out there because it's not an optimal environment for the grind, and resources are finite. And
Mm-hmm.
when resources are finite, people are not the best version of themselves.
That is
Not
true.
saying that justifies any behavior, but it definitely explains it a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, and comedy and sort of any art form that is so personal yet tied to this outside validation is a mind fuck. Like you make this little art in hopes to make someone happy, and then you get nothing in response. Like it's hard to,
digest
and
that.
then
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, start to process that, and then you see people doing things that you don't see as good, but being elevated. And a lot of people do get there. It's easier for some archetypes. To keep it kind of vague, like I mean, I think that's part of why my metal stuff works well is that I look like a guy you already know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like one piece of the puzzle is already there. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's just all a mind fuck, and it's hard to not let it just do that to your brain, especially in such a saturated market. I was just in New York last week, and I was like, this is dope. I'd love to live here. I want to wait until I have a bigger career before I move to the most saturated market.
Right, right. And New York comedy scene is completely different to the LA scene. How is it in PA? I mean, is there a good scene, or do you have? Because I know you travel a lot. Is that because there's not much of a scene, or is it just because you want to get around?
What is the question after this one? Let's go to that one.
Okay.
No, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Are there clubs?
Uh,
Like, I mean, there's shows. Are there
there's
shows?
There's some shows. It's just honestly, I came out here because I'm doing a residency at an arts foundation,
Okay.
and which is cool. It's fantastic. Alleviates the way I kind of frame it is that like it made it so my bills aren't nearly as large, but my income drastically dropped when I came here.
Mm,
And Pittsburgh proper has not. I've not made a lot of money in Pittsburgh itself. I have to leave, but it is a good base of operations, and I do have the financial freedom to take advantage of that. It is just a little frustrating to be like, oh, I don't have like a good source of income within 50 miles of my bed.
right, right, right. It's
But that's
tough.
fine.
It's tough, but Pittsburgh is also, like you said, it's kind of centralized where like it's
Yes.
only a couple hour drive for you to go to a different state, and there are numerous states that you can go do, and in different cities and different vibes. What outside of obvious the big obvious ones, New York, L.A. and Austin, what are other cities since you've been getting around that have you've noticed that have like a good rooms?
Well, I haven't been to all the places. I also will say, in defense of everything around here, I got here right at the end of spring, beginning of summer, which is the worst time for comedy.
Mm,
So, like, it makes sense that it's been an uphill battle for me. Also, smaller market, a lot of the spots are already spoken for. So a new person shows up, and you're like, "Hey, I want to take it." And they're like, "Fuck you!" Like these are
yeah.
ours. And I'm like, "All right, that makes sense." I'm also very tired of I'm shitting on places. It gets old. Every place is exactly what it is, and judging it and being a turd about it won't
Change
help
it.
my brain.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Also, people don't appreciate hearing that about their home.
right.
Weirdly
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, right.
Also, I do like Pittsburgh. The great hills, good trees. Also, there's so much brick. East Coast has so much brick, and that makes me happy. But like driving around Pittsburgh because it's like a city that's broken up by a river, and you'll be driving and so many hills, and you just see all these small little brick houses on these hills, and it just looks like a bunch of dwarves that set up shop above ground. I love it.
Nice.
Uh, but I've been to, let's see here, I've been to recently, I was in New York, then I was in Cleveland, I've been to DC, did a weekend in Louisville. What else have I been? I did a bunch of stuff in the Midwest. I was up in some Wisconsin. I'm going to be in Indianapolis later this month. I've been there before. I'm going to Chicago in a couple weeks. So a lot of these places I've been or will be in. So I can't really speak on it that much. And also I don't spend a lot of time in these towns necessarily. I'm just going, I'm doing a run of shows. So I go, hey, all right, I'm in Milwaukee tonight, Madison tomorrow, Chicago the next day. That's not a lot of time to just check it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but I do like how much is around here. It's as I grew up in Washington State, and there's a lot of stuff there, but like by comparison, not that much. Like you have Seattle, Tacoma, Bellingham, and then hop the border in Canada, go to Vancouver, BC. But then outside of that, you have like Olympia, and then 3 hours south, you have Portland and Oregon, and you're like, those are the markets, and then like Spokane on the other side of the state, and that's kind of it for the markets. But like, say you're based out of Chicago, there's like so many markets that are within like an 8 hour drive of you.
Nice, nice. And it's a good place to live too for concerts. They never really
Mm-hmm.
skip Pittsburgh. You know, it's I used to live in Florida, and
Mm.
no one drives to Miami. No bands go
Yeah.
down there. It's the
Yeah.
worst. Yeah, that was a tough being in a metal band in Miami, Florida, the home of
Mm.
reggaeton and hip hop and all of that culture that doesn't really leave room for us. But
Mm.
we were the guys for a while. Like we were the only ones that would sell out the the shithole Churchills. It did not survive the pandemic, unfortunately. It's like another
Yeah.
bummer, but
Well,
there was such a limit on like the metal culture down there that it was tough. You couldn't get shows.
yeah, I mean, there's a cap of growth in kind of any market. And Pittsburgh, like, there's a lot of music here, but a lot of it is because venues were bought by Live Nation. Like,
Mm.
that's just these huge conglomerates just kind of like swooped up a bunch of these venues, and then they're like, you got to use Ticketmaster, which is, I'll say, is fine for the sake of if any of them are watching this and I want to work with you in the future. But I also am like, I love antitrust laws. Let's break up some monopolies.
Yeah, yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, and I've again, I'm not a very political person, but anymore, but I have seen that there are people. I think it was Biden that was trying to call out
Yes.
Ticketmaster, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know,
The attorney general is the FCC. I think is they're doing antitrust things. They're suing Google, and I've turned into a political person, and it bums me out that I am. It's like
yeah,
I give a shit, and I clearly think one side is doing things that are more in line with helping America, or at least align with my perception of morality. Um, which is a bummer because it's fun to not give a fuck. And now I'm like, no, I give a fuck. I like this side. And there's plenty of reasons why I think this side sucks, but it sucks a lot less than that side.
yeah. I mean, it speaks a lot about me that I used to be that way. I used to give a fuck, and now that I'm getting older, I'm giving less fucks, and you know, some people can perceive it as quitting or giving up. I'm not like, obviously, if I see something fucked up, I'm going to say something about it. But I'm not going around like I used to. I used to protest. Like, I used to go out and hold signs and film videos of me, like, you know, no, like, but now it's all that's gone. And I don't know if it's just that life has run me down. But
I think I sorry, I'm totally
no, go ahead,
jumping in on you. Well, I think it's because you've lived long enough to know that being that worked up doesn't actually facilitate change, and your bandwidth has gotten smaller and smaller, and to the point where you're like, I just want to be happy today if I can, which is also why you're a part of the problem.
I'm a poser. No,
yeah,
I know.
But also, I think that is so silly to like see the lens through that. Like, that's like teenager speak.
Yeah.
You're a poser. You're like, you're fresh to testosterone. Shut the fuck up. You've had chin hairs for 3 years. Why the fuck should I listen to your opinion?
That's why I can't do young bands either, man. And I'm sorry, all you young aspiring bands that are maybe watching this. I don't care about your band. Call me in like 10 years.
All right, I'm not going to co-sign what he said. I get the sentiment, and he's yes-anding me. But even after I said the thing that I said, I was like, I don't totally mean that. But
yeah. No, I mean, I know, like, look, I like supporting young talent, of course, but like, I don't really care about what you're singing about when you're 15. What are you singing about?
Like, well, it needs to be good, and also it's the same with like having comedians that start off really, really young. Is that a lot of audiences are like, I don't want to listen to a 20-year-old tell me about their life unless the jokes are like really good, and that's hard to do at that stage.
Or you have abs like Matt Rife. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, there's all kinds of ways to navigate that, but like that's also a thing where I'm like, yeah, like, no, start young and work on it, but also like be aware that it's an uphill battle, and that's because you showed up so early.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they typically, people that start young like that, I mean, they're the prodigies. They end up, you know, when they're in their 30s and 40s playing arenas, you know, because you've put in the work now. You've been there. I didn't start young. I started, you know, way, way late with comedy. I did start music sort of young, but that failed. So that kind of, you know, didn't do much for me in that sense.
Yeah, and those credits don't necessarily transfer.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, look, I was bringing up for your case, but I do feel like when I did start doing comedy, I did feel an advantage because I've heard all the stories, and I spent a lot of time before taking the stage. I spent a lot of time at the Comedy Store, hanging out, talking to open micers, going to open mics, and just hanging out, not doing it. Just I wanted to be a part of the scene. I treated it like I did with music, where I would go to local shows and just hang out. Let me check out the local bands, and then, you know, hey, I have a band. Can we hop on? Like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, that's how you should approach comedy here. And I hear constantly like, oh man, once I got up there in the light and whatever. And I felt when I got up there, I was like, I've been doing this for 10 years. Like, this is normal. And it felt like a leg up on the whole situation. Because at least now I can remember all the things that I want to say. Because, you know, I used to sing, so I have the lyrics. I would memorize the words. Yeah. You know, I had that whole. It feels like an advantage, but I don't want to talk about it either, because then it just sounds like the old heads are going to come up to me like, "You still don't know what you're talking about because, you know, you're being cocky, kid." You know, that whole thing. I'm like, no, I don't know. I felt like there was a little off there.
Okay, I do kind of want to go over something I said earlier. Is that it probably did help me. It's just I did so little shows in a band on stage that I didn't like. I wasn't aware of the skill set I was working on, but I'm sure having already done it a couple times, you know, around a half a dozen times, did set me up to not be nearly as like as someone else just going in. Yeah. Also, I spent years yelling at people at house parties, so I was accustomed to like being looked at and being the loudest one, and then being like laughter. All right, cool.
Nice.
To not to actually no, to therapize you. This
Yes,
is
please.
I've had a version of this conversation many times, because what you just said there, you saying you don't want to talk about the thing because an old head is going to come tell you a thing. Like, you're preemptively stopping yourself from trying to do a thing because of an imagined reaction of a hypothetical person. That's you talking to you about a thing you haven't even done.
Yeah.
That is so much idiotic narcissism. Like, just, you're eating your own tail. Like, who gives a shit, man?
Yeah.
Write it down, write out these little jokes, and then just be a big boy and go talk about the thing you love, because it's going to resonate with someone. And also, I'm saying this at past me, where it's like, if I started talking about metal music earlier, because I had many people go, hey, don't get that loud on stage. Hey, like, I don't get it. I don't know why you like it. I had the exact same reactions to jokes about metal music that I did like me showing people metal music. They just go, I don't get it. I don't like it. And I avoided it because of that reaction. I go, I guess I'll talk about these other things. I'll talk about drinking. I'll talk about jerking off. I'll talk about all these other super relatable topics. But I wish I had actually just stuck it out and listened to my own preferences earlier, because I would be further along. The boulder would be further up the hill.
Right.
That internal speak of like, I want to be accepted. I want to, like, fuck the old heads, man. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They listen to some stupid bands. They're just, yeah. Well, they just think they're good bands because they were 15 when they first heard them.
Yeah. That's true. You get locked into that nostalgia. There's shit that, and I've noticed it on myself, where like I'll get a younger, like a 20-something year, like my cousins, and I'll show them some of the old metal that I listen to, and I'm like ready to blow their minds, because they're like, oh, I like Sleep Token. I'm like, oh, dude, you have no idea. Let me show you this. And then I get nothing. I bomb showing them music, and I start sweating. I'm like, fuck. Nope. It was just me and my nostalgia. And when I was a kid, like, that was cool then. It's not cool now.
Well, it doesn't have a fresh sound necessarily. Some stuff is more timeless than others, but some stuff you're like, oh, that's right, I was 14. Like, the boner was fresh, and that's why I like this.
Yeah. So, okay, tell me a little bit about metal. Now we're talking about it. What are some of the, like, what was the first metal show that you went to when you were a kid?
First concert I ever went to, I think it was June 1st, 2001.
Shit, you remember the date?
Well, I had the ticket for a while there, and I would see it. It might have been June 20th. It was Pantera Slayer at the Tacoma Dome in Washington.
It's a good first show.
And that was actually their last show they ever did in the United States. It was the Extreme Steel tour, and then they did a show in Japan after that, and then they didn't tour for a while, and then inevitably broke up. So it was like one of the last shows that Pantera actually ever played as the original lineup. Yeah.
So how old are you now? I'm like, wait,
old enough.
Old enough, bro.
I'm 38, not to brag.
Ooh, you look good for 38. Not a lot of grays yet.
Yeah, there's some in there.
There's some there, but
all
right. I'm not that much older. I'm 43. It's not that much older.
Okay.
But you know, like I remember I went to that one of the last that was Phil with the long hair and the beard at that point, right?
Yeah, he can't really grow much of a beard, but he has something. I saw them. I think it was in Ozfest around that tour period. Yeah.
They did that, and
I think I saw Superjoint Ritual like twice at Ozfest after Pantera broke up.
Nice. I don't think I've ever seen that. I didn't think I never caught Superjoint. I never caught Damage Plan. Yeah, I've caught Down a bunch of times, but that's different.
Never saw Down. I really enjoyed them for a while there.
Yeah, until until things came out on Mr. Old Phil, Mr. Phil.
Yeah, man. That's also a part of my. He was like what the first iteration of me going like, oh, maybe singers suck. Like, I was like, he was the dude. And then in hindsight, I was like, a lot of Confederate flags, a lot
Dude,
of
how did I not
walk
pick
on
up on
home.
that?
Yeah, I was like, oh, the line. I haven't really fleshed out the joke all the way, but I really like this line where I go like, "Oh, my hearing was better, but somehow I couldn't hear dog whistles."
Mm. I like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's weird, man. I grew up loving Pantera too, and even like afterwards, like I was living in North Carolina, and David Allan Coe was perform. I think it was David Allan Coe, right? He's the one that has the dime guitars, but he's also
sure,
racist, I guess.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It was one of those shows, and I just went because I knew he had Dime's guitar. Like that was the only reason I went, and it had a Confederate flag on it.
Yep.
And this is like country North Carolina. So
Yeah.
brown boy here walked in like nothing, and it was like a scene out of a movie. Like everything stopped, and everybody just turned, and I'm like, hey, just gonna sit back here.
You're like, I like the same things you guys like. I just don't hate the same things you guys hate.
Exactly. It's very hard. I don't hate anymore, man. I'm over the hating too. I used to hate everything. I used to hate Nickelback. Now I'm like, go for it, dude. Good job. I don't hate you.
I'm not going that far, but
No.
I'm well, as in like I'm not going to encourage. You're like, what do these millionaires need my encouragement for? I just go like,
Right.
I don't have hate, but I do have like fucking. All right, man, I'm gonna go this way. Like you do you, boo boo, but I'm not.
I used to hate. I used to like talk shit, and then
Yeah,
I stopped myself. I'm like, I don't know, but whatever. People like
but
it, I
it's
guess. They're selling records. Somebody likes it. Who am I to be the grumpy old man to be like, nah.
yeah. I don't want to be that, but I also if I can find a punchline, if I can because I don't want to just shit for the sake of shitting, because that's also like kind of the subtext of a lot of things that I say is like we don't have to be the same person. I can think something's dumb and I want to give you reasons why with all while not necessarily entirely alienating the person that likes the thing that I don't like.
Right,
Like
right, right.
that's the line that I want to be able to like keep on where I can like have my cake and eat it too. And it's hard to do, but like
Yeah.
especially with like metal music, if I share an opinion, a good chunk of people are gonna be like, no, and you're like, yeah, man. It's also usually why I don't like to. People ask me if I do a Q&A at a show, they want to know what my favorite band is, and my immediate response is like, oh, so that you can judge my opinion. Like
Yeah.
every metalhead does that. Like, what's your favorite band so that I can maybe or maybe not stop respecting how you look at the world? Like,
Right. Yeah, I hate that shit. I don't even have an answer. If maybe Mastodon, maybe, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like I don't know what to tell you.
I
Maybe
have,
there's this one. I don't know. This one.
yeah.
I like a
You're like,
lot of them.
yeah. I also, I think having a favorite band is like foolish because it's like, I don't know. It's a body of work. Am I supposed to be rooting for them the whole time? There's some swings and misses, which is good. You should
Yeah.
swing and miss. Like, do art. Make a fun, fucking unique thing. Don't give me the same thing over and over because it worked in 2004 one time.
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck, dude. I just realized it's been an hour. We've been talking, and that's usually where I cut it. But I want to keep talking to you.
I mean, I gotta, you tell me, I do have a hard out in a little bit, but I got a couple more minutes. We can, if you have some things you want to run through.
No, let's just wrap it up. Let's
No,
no, it's fine. No, it's cool, dude. I This has been fun. I'm sorry if it got weird and anybody that's watching and listening, if it got political and you got upset about it, I'm sorry. It's just, we're talking. I've
can
never
I?
met Luke. We met for the first time here.
Mhm.
Go on. Yes.
I would like to say that I am not sorry. I'm saying my opinion, and if you disagree, that's fine because
Go
this
book
is
yourself.
America.
Not
I
really.
mean, but I also think, and maybe this is me just telling you what to do, but it's like, don't be sorry for having an opinion, man. Like,
No, I know.
because I also think that that is a unfortunate aspect of where we are right now is that everyone's in the comment sections and they lack empathy to understand that someone might not be where they are, and
Yeah.
it's like I don't know, and that's 100%. That's a left wing problem. That's a right wing problem. Like I don't know. I have these themes that I'm expanding on that I haven't finished, but it's just I'm really annoyed that so much time is spent on red versus blue. We're pointing our pitchforks at each other instead of upwards, which is
Right.
we're complaining on these media platforms owned by very very wealthy people that somehow aren't getting any flack but all of us are mad at each other. I was at Costco today and some lady was like, she's a cashier and she's complaining about people going on strike. And I was like, you mean your fellow peasants? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have some
Yeah.
class fucking solidarity, dude. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man. Like here, okay, fine. I'll say something that does bother me. That's a kind of a political thing. I'm Cuban, brown type Cuban, because there are blonde, blue-eyed type Cubans. But there's such a weird movement going on with Cubans and being super, super right wing and being anti-immigration. Like I have a bunch of my buddies like, oh, there's too many immigrants. I'm like, you're an immigrant. What are you talking about? Like your family came on a boat. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about right now? How are you against immigration? You are immigration. Like
I mean,
you're a dirty brown islander like me. Come on.
I'm not agreeing with what he just
No,
said.
I know. And that was a joke, guys.
I was like, well, fucking, if that's a problem, go take a shower, dude. It's not that hard to fix. It's also that you extrapolate that a couple more generations, and that's literally every American.
Right. Yeah. The actual people that belong here are not the Republican white dudes from Europe. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's weird, man.
But it's also not that weird if you just go like, yeah, man, but what sort of media do they consume? What sort of culture is being pumped into their brains? And Fox News has done a great job of just amplifying fears for years. Mm-hmm. And then you have the religious aspect of it that co-ops that. And it's a hodgepodge of fuckery. But hypocrisy doesn't really resonate. I mean, and there's plenty of hypocrisy on the left, but when it comes to this specific thing, I do find it very interesting how many people are anti-immigration when it's like, yeah, man, but your parents came here illegally. You're here, which is also what America does, but now you're mad at the thing. And I also, that circles back to the thing I just said a couple minutes ago, where it's just like, yeah, it's because you have finite resources. So it's pitting the peasants against each other, as opposed to going like, oh, we just need to tax the ultra wealthy some more so that these systems that should be in place to take care of all of us are more robust. But that doesn't make the shareholders happy. So we don't do that. So instead we're just told to hate each other.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. And I will take your advice and talk a little bit more about it, because I won't make the show about it, but I will talk about it, because it bothers me, but I've gotten so run down and so tired of it that I just it wasn't a resignation, but it's just like, I'm just going to keep my opinion to myself because I don't want to argue with you. You know, that's what it's come down to. Like, I'm tired of the arguing. And that's what it always becomes. Like those Cubans I mentioned, I keep them around because they're old friends from high school. My wife is constantly asking me, like, why are you still talking to them? They're assholes. They think of this certain way. I'm like, well, because in a weird way, I feel like I'm the only one that's going to call them on their bullshit whenever they say something stupid. And I'm hoping that they're not actual bad people. It's just the brainwashing from watching the Fox News every day or Univision or whatever it is that they're watching that's feeding their narrative. And they're like, okay, that's life, I guess. And this is the way I should go. It's like, no, that's not the way you should go. There are other options. You know?
Yeah. I think that's good. I think more people need to do that. It's very hard to do that because you also need to like be more resilient in hearing something you don't like. And then also, if you want to be effective at the thing you just said, you need to empathize with them and then understand how they got here so that you can give like the connective tissue to get back to a common place. Like another thing that I talk about on stage a little bit is that like everyone's in their own little echo chamber, whether it's red or blue. Like we don't have a shared reality anymore. And that only helps the outsized powers that be. Like this culture war doesn't help America, but it sure as fuck helps Russia and China and any other country that wants America to not do as well as we have for decades. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just saying like it is, I understand the aversion to it. And I don't really hop in my comments on Facebook or whatever and try to argue because it's like, I don't want to do the emotional labor to get you to where I'm at. I kind of want to go, here's my opinion, here's my jokes. Fuck. So I'm guilty of not trying either, but I'm like, if we're just having a conversation like this,
Yeah.
it's easier. Just
Yeah.
typity types, not good.
No. Yeah, conversations are important. That's where we need to get back to, is being able to talk to each other, because that's why I stick around in that group and talk to them, and I try not to post or, like you said, comments and whatnot. But I have if somebody's going to talk to me about it and have an actual conversation, let's talk about it. If you're going to yell in my face about whatever it is you think, I'm out. Goodbye. I'm not bothering with any of that. So it's important. We need to talk to each other again, and that's why podcasts exist. I think to bring people like us and others together to talk. So
and agree with each other. That's why we did this. Just agree
because we were the
step of the
same.
way.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
that was good.
Of course, dude. Metal. Fuck yeah. No. I really appreciate you talking to me, dude. I know that you're a busy dude, and I just when I discovered your comedy, I was like, oh fuck, it's a joke to say you're a version of me or whatever. It's very egoic, very narcissistic, but I relate to almost everything that you say and do there. So I'm a fan, and hopefully, as time progresses, because I do comedy shows out here in LA. Maybe one day we'll work together. Who knows? I'll book you a show out here in LA if you want to, get up on stage. But in the meantime, let people know socials, all of the things. Plug away.
Oh yeah, it's just Luke Severeid, LukeSevereid. That's kind of my handle on everything: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. LukeSevereid.com. Find all my dates there, or in the link tree that I have on all my socials. I'm doing the road a decent amount. I'm all the cities I said earlier, and I'm kind of I'm Pennsylvania based, but I'm kind of going everywhere. I'm trying to go to just everywhere I can go in the next rest of my life.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I'm gonna keep watching. And like I said, if you are ever in the West Coast, hit me up. I got connections out here. We'll get you some shows.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Sounds great, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for talking. We'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
Cheers.